Okay, good morning everybody. I think we've waited long enough to see if anyone else is going to come out of bed. I'm really happy to see this place so full and that you've all made it here despite the early hour of the morning. My name is Will Stevenson.
My name is Dick Müller.
And we're here to tell you about the kde4 presence on the next version of OpenSUSE. So, this is the content of the talk. We're going to talk a little bit about KDE's presence on OpenSUSE in general. We're going to talk about specifically about KDE4 on OpenSUSE 11.0. And then we're going to give you a brief demo of how you can start developing KDE software yourself using scripting languages. And if we get time, we're going to talk about the one-CD process, which is the changes that we in the KDE team have made to the build system, to package management, to make it possible to get one CD that holds KDE3 and KDE4 in the case of 10.3. So, OpenSUSE KDE presence. Here's our little mind map of what we do. 4 major areas: packaging, upstream work with kde.org, product work, and specific applications. All of these, of course, feed into one another, but these are general descriptions. So packaging, we package KDE, we make sure that on OpenSUSE we always have the freshest KDE packages, with patches from upstream where we can. So you're really getting, when you get KDE 3.x.y or 4.d.q, you're not just getting the tarballs, you're also getting the improvements that have been selected from the KDE upstream repository by ourselves as experts. We provide build service repositories, which give you access to a wide variety of different KDE versions, stable, unstable, improved in various ways, and customized versions of Qt. So no matter what you need, you can always get variations of KDE software that fits your needs. We work on a variety of applications. I'm going to go over them in a little bit detail, but Network Manager, Car Power Save, Carry System Settings, we all have on those. And they're also very active upstream. We're members of the release team of KDE. We set up release schedules, we make decisions about whether software is of sufficient quality to go for a release. And another example there is Dashboard, which is a web application that Dirk wrote that allows KDE developers to see what the state of the repository is by constantly rebuilding all the KDE software direct from SVM using the OpenSUSE build service, using our packages. And then all that comes together and that goes into OpenSUSE products, which is OpenSUSE 11, which is Sled, which is the live CD, everything which is something you can take with and install. So what's the live CD? It is a live CD built using Kiwi, built using packages that come out of the build service, and we make sure it's really regularly updated. I mean, during the KDE4 release cycle, we were updating that like twice a week. So you can always get the freshest possible KDE packages if you want to try them out, and even install that now. And with the way things are going, we've got more and more tools which make it possible to create customized images. So if you have a need for a OpenSUSE KDE-based distribution, you can take the scripts that generate the live CD and customize those to produce application CDs that do what you want. So one example here would be to make a KDE SDK CD, which you could boot, develop KDE with, and then install, and really say to someone, look, discover KDE development, this is all you need.
It could also be useful for testing the latest fix, for example, if there's a bug report that is very hard to reproduce by us, and can only be reproduced by the reporter, then you can just download a new live CD with the new packages and just boot it up and see the problem against the fix, for example.
And if you can see what's in there, the URL, if you have anything to do with KDE, you've probably heard Stefan Binner's blogs, read Stefan Binner's blogs about this, but there once again is the URL where we store the live CDs. So build service packages, we have a range of different repositories. At the moment, these are probably the two most important ones. We've spent some time deciding how to divide up our software into repositories, so you get the benefits of a wide range of things and a familiar structure, but also split it up so it's modular, so that if you want to just get the pure KDE core packages, you can say go to kde4 stable, that's KDE 4.0, and install the desktop repository, which gives you the basic KDE release cycle packages. If you want something more than that, you can add the extra applications, which is KDE Extra Gear, and some other applications which are following the KDE release cycle, so K-Office, but not part of the KDE core modules. To go beyond that, add the community repo, and then you also get the community maintained packages. And I don't know if any of you are interested, I don't know if you come to any of our IRC meetings, but we have a vacancy in the community. We're looking for a module maintainer, for somebody who would maintain this build service module and who would select the cream of the best new KDE4 applications and add them to that repository.
Which we forgot to mention is that each of those repositories also define patterns, which you can just browse in your YAST or SuperGUI, and they provide a basic installation, a default selection, which we suggest to use. And the same thing could be done for the community repository, which is currently lacking any patterns. And I think we have to, well, we should provide patterns for the community repository as well, so that we can, if we have to select several applications, then we can just install the pattern if we want to.
And then we have the same structure repeated for KDE 4.1, which is the development branch. So that gets you a weekly snapshot of the KDE4 branch, all built, all packaged, and all tested using dashboard as well, so that we know it actually builds cleanly. So if you want to track KDE development but don't want to build it yourself, that's the way to do it. And then coming out of that, if you're interested in packaging, you're interested in open KDE, we're having some packaging days where you can come along, work with us, other experts, learn how to use the build service, and get yourself an account set up and really get led through that process of making packages with as much hand-holding as you need to make it really easy for you to get into that. So come along to that. That's in April, 4th and 5th, Friday and Saturday, so plenty of opportunities there for you to come and meet us. And as it says there, the build service is not just about OpenSUSE. We thought that would provide it, but we're so big and generous that we make it possible for you to package your software for the distributions as well. So I was just talking last night with the guys from kde4, who are Desktop Environment Foundation, and they're really big, really positive about coming and packaging for all the distributions that they target using OpenSUSE build service to provide the build horsepower. So you could do that too if you're into packaging software. Now, brief overview of the things that we've done in the KDE team. I don't know if you know this, but OpenSUSE employs most KDE developers full-time to work on KDE. So if you were here last year, you would have heard about Kickoff, which I presented at, which is a start menu. We developed that inside SUSE. We did that using usability experts, and then that's since gone out and been taken over by the community. It's now a part of KDE4. And we take the KDE4 community version and do a little bit of improving. So we add, say, if you look at the bottom here, there's a user and host name and a little OpenSUSE logo there. So just little improvements, patching things like making the highlights here more interesting, more wider, sorry, which makes it easier to use and more usable, we feel. So you always get the benefit of our improvements. Network Manager, that's the old snapshot screenshot. It's the control applet for the Network Manager daemon. And again, that's developed and maintained by OpenSUSE, and every other distribution uses it and benefits from it. And we're working on versions of that to cover both KDE4. At the moment, you can use the KDE3 applet and the KDE4. But by the time KDE 4.1 comes out, or 11.0, we will have a KDE4-based applet And that will cover both Network Manager 0.6, so for other distributions which are still using Network Manager 0.6, you can benefit from that, or 0.7, which we're going with. In KPowerSave, it's your application which does your suspend to disk, to resume, manages your brightness, manages your process throttling. Danny Kukowka in the mobile devices team, he maintains that. And that's going to become the standard power management tool for KD4. System settings, it's used by all of KD4. We put time into that before the KD4 release to make that usable, to make that stable, and generally bring it up to the standards that people demand of such a core piece of functionality.
It's probably worth mentioning that we are not going to demo it that much because there's another KD talk just after this talk in the first desktop room, where they will show all the new improvements of KD4 by demoing it. So we're just more or less quickly giving an overview over OpenSUSE specific stuff. But if you're interested in KD4 in general, then you're very much invited to visit the talk just afterwards.
And whatever you see in the general talk, remember, you'll see it best produced on OpenSUSE. So, Kerry, it's the desktop search tool for Beagle. That is being extended now for Striggy for KD4. Stefan Ben is working on that. And that means that you'll be able to use the same search tool using either a Beagle or a Striggy search backend. So all of the high-performance searching you've heard about that Striggy offers will be supported by Kerry.
Yeah, you could actually use any other search engine as well. It's not in any way restricted to anyone. We will just implement a specification of the system which both Beagle now provides and Striggy implements. So you could have another backend for another search engine if you want to.
Okay. So, I'm going to hand over to Dirk now, who's going to tell you a bit about our planning for KD4's presence on the next release of OpenSUSE.
This is our current schedule. OpenSUSE 11.0 will be released this year in June, and we will maintain it at least for 2 years, which also means that the KDE version we are going to ship is the one that we will maintain for that time. So there's no thing as we only maintain it for half a year or things like that. We will maintain it for a full period of time. We have the problem that we want to meet the expectations of our users and our customers, which means they're used to use a very featureful and stable KDE code base. But on the other hand, we also want to provide or prove that KD4 is already ready for an enterprise platform, which means that we're in a bit of a difficult situation that we want to prove that it is ready. On the other side, we're a little bit unsure, or we have concerns about the feature regressions which we have in KD4.0. Our main motivation is that we want to ship the state of the art in KDE, and we want to make sure that OpenSUSE is the primary KDE platform. So what we are doing right now is within the alpha phase of the 11.0 series, we shipped KD4.1 or the 4.0.2 version as soon as it is released, and we do a little bit of backports of applications that are currently only developed for KD4.1 and that are not a part of KD4.0 release areas upstream. So we have, for example, improved the backported improvements in Plasma, which are essential for the user to be able to use KDE as a primary desktop. We do this for 2 reasons. One, the first reason is that we want your feedback. We want to know what are your problems, what are your concerns. What would you want to have improved for KD4?
I'd like to point out that we use the same code base for the 10.3 packages in desktop as well as for 11.0. So if you don't want to try installing 11.0 alpha or beta, you can still give us useful feedback by using the 10.3 packages.
as already mentioned, we target a feature and quality parity with KD3, which is currently our main concern. So we're maintaining a blocker list and slowly chewing through the blocker list and fix the problems as they come up. So if you have things that you consider a blocker, please give us input. It's very important for us. An alternative plan, because in case we are not happy enough with KD4.0 or what KD4.0 provides, we might ship a 4.1 beta, because we have this advantage because we are quite close to the upstream schedule for KD4.1. So we would have the clear advantage that we can ship many more features and improvements and polishing that is currently being done with the upstream repository. On the other side, we are a little bit more concerned that as we have to ship a beta, it's obviously not final and we might have some stability problems.
If that was the case, if we did ship a beta, then we would ship a 4.1 final via online updates as soon as 4.1 final was released.
Exactly. We would maintain both situations equally. In the second case, we would provide an online update to the final version as soon as it comes out. A couple of open topics which we are currently investigating is what PIM application suite we want to ship. As you might know, the upstream didn't release the PIM applications for 4.0. So we have two options. We either ship the KD3 versions, which has been proven for quite a long time to work reliably and has been extended in the enterprise branch with new features and a lot of enterprise-ready goodies. And this is basically a very stable code base which we could use and we currently ship. But the other option would be, as the porting of this enterprise application suite was already finished to KD4, that we shipped the new KD from KD4.1.
So even if we ship a 4.0 based KDE, we may then ship the 4.1 based PIM so that you get KMail to contact to. Could be very exciting.
So right now there are no packages of the PIM packages from KD4.1, but we plan to provide them within next week. So we'll have another news entry about them. So if you want to try them out, don't try them on your live data for the first time maybe. And please give us feedback, so we will probably announce that separately. We are also currently very much discussing internally and with the community especially which application we ship by default, because for many applications it's not quite clear. There are two, there's a KD3 version and a KD4 version. The KD3 version is often as good maintained as the KD4 version, so we have to basically say, do we want to go with the newer version or do we want to go with the more stable version? I'm mentioning Amaret 2 here because we really like it. It's a big improvement over Amaret 1. On the other side, the upstream developers are currently, I think, not that interested in us shipping it because they would get a lot of bug reports and a lot of feedback that they don't appreciate at the moment because there are so many things that they haven't decided upon yet. So we use the opportunity here to meet with them and talk to them and see what their input is. Another open topic is what level of theming and OpenSUSE customization we want to provide to our KDE. This is mostly a time issue, I think. KDE is made modular enough that you can just change any look and feel you want. But we would still like to have an OpenSUSE touch on it, so we want to give it a little bit of extra, and we're currently thinking about ideas on how to do that.
So we got little things like the start menu we showed you, and like window decoration that has a little deco in it, but it's not very functional, but it reminds you of using OpenSUSE with the default set look and feel.
Another open topic is the backward compatibility or the upgrade path, which is more or less the same thing. We want to provide uses the possibility to be able to upgrade from KD3 to KD4, which is currently not that much focus from upstream. So we are investigating and making sure that you don't break your KD3 installation by just installing KD4, or you don't break KD3 stable installation by just trying it out for one track.
So that means adding things like making sure that session management of KD3 applications works in KD4 environments. We haven't gone so far as to importing configuration yet, because we want to make sure that people's KD3 configuration remains compatible. That's another thing we're thinking about.
No. I think the idea we have here is to implement it in such a way that it will import your configuration from KD3 if it is available, but won't override the KD3 application, so KD3 configuration. So you always have the choice to go back if you want to, but you will automatically let your old configuration imported as soon as possible.
So, a little bit about how to write a KD4 application in 9997.
Yeah, it's very. I mean, it's a very stupid idea. Often enough, we face the problem that we have to automate some process. I'm pretty sure you are familiar with this problem that you do a certain job a lot of times during the day, and you're just annoyed by the tools that are available, so you write your own script and improve it just for you personal use cases. So one use case we have pretty frequently is to watch the build status in the open build service. So we have, as we said earlier, a lot of packages in the build service infrastructure. So we want to monitor them and see as soon as possible when one of the packages fails to build, so that we can fix the problem. And
which you want to do right as well, because you want to see when the latest resync of the packages comes with the update upstream repository, and then you can install those packages, right? So this is kind of thing could be useful to you too. So we want to show you that it's just as easy as writing a little bash script that you could use in the command line. It's just as easy to write that as a GUI script, which will give you a nice integrated look and feel.
Yeah, it will also give you a clear advantage. And the advantage we show by just showing how much the tools we use right now are not up to our task. So we just show the two possibilities you have right now for watching how the build status of your repository is. There's one that's a command line tool, OC, which is used for command line access to the build service. You can call this command OC project, which allows to see an overview about your packages in a certain repository. And there's also a web front end, which you can also use for doing the same thing as you did. We just show it to you. This is the output of project results if you have more than 2 packages.
I don't know if you can see this, but
yeah, find a failing package, please.
On the diagonal you have all the packages, and on the vertical you have all the distributions it builds for, and then you have these lines and these dots, and the Fs here show the failing packages.
So we'll try to figure out which package failed for which distribution. I think it's not very obvious. Yeah. And it's even worse because it just starts over again if the space is not enough. So we have a lot of trees of...
So you're going to be starting up KRuler at this point and trying to look and line things up using KRuler. But that's the next alternative.
So we think, oh yeah, there's a web front end. Web front ends are cool. You can use that. So we start it up and watch the monitor and see, oh, it's all green. So it's nice. Green is open source, right? Yeah, it has to work right. So we scroll a little bit more, and then we see this. There's a package that failed. Can you see it over there? The red one? Which package is it? Yeah. The problem is for some reason the web UI doesn't allow you to see the package and the repository at the same time. So there's this little scroll bar at the bottom, and you can either see which the package names, which you saw before on the left side, or you can see the build status, but you can't see both at the same time. So you're always going this and that way.
Well, obviously, Build from Web Service is an open source program. You could download it and fix it, but by the time you've got it uploaded and resynced with the rest of the project and actually be deployed on the server, your package might have finished building. So this is the quick way around.
So obviously, as we said already, we're really lazy. We don't have enough time. We just wanted to have something now, and so we just sat down and let's see how fast we can get something that's more useful, just a little bit more useful. And the target was to be faster than the time we need to present the slides, which is not that much. So, in addition, our prerequisite is we have no idea how the build service works, and we have no idea how the build service can be accessed over the API interface, which is very well documented, but we still don't want to read a couple of pages of documentation. We just want to have a very quick result. We do know a little bit of Python. We've used it for a very small command line script before, and we also have heard about QT before. So we thought we can combine all of that. First of all, we will just sketch out a little UI with the Qt interface designer, which is a very useful tool to just design your interface. I've cut off the actual toolbars and stuff where you can drag in your widgets and just align them. But this is what we came up with. It's a very simple interface. You just have a label. This is a combo box where you can choose which repository we want to show. And this is just the overview which we fill in with data.
It's a table widget, so it's kind of like a spreadsheet. You'll see that in a minute.
So, okay, now we have an interface. So we only need this implementation. It can't be that difficult, right? So as we use Python, we realized OSC is also written in Python. So instead of learning how the build service API works, we're just going to use OSC for that. And we're not going to run it in command line and try to parse the output we saw before and try to figure out how to present it nicely. We just import it because it's written in Python, so we can just import it. So what we're doing here is actually over there. We just import the OSC tool in our new Python script and initialize it. This is the only magic line we have to figure out. It took a few minutes to figure that out. And we import also the user interface we just designed in interface designer.
Yeah.
So we were not actually writing any code so far. We only designed the UI and we imported, just set up the basic things and imported the OSC for doing the actual work. And we imported the user interface which we just designed. There's no code written in any way so far.
So running designer on the output of that designer is a Python module called overview, which has a class in it called UI main window. And you'll see that used in a minute.
So this is the slide you probably can't read. The interesting thing is that this is the whole script. It's not very routinely written in any way, but this is all that we have to do. What we're doing here basically is to just fetch a result with the OSC interface, which is given up to us as an XML document. So we are passing the XML document and then just run through the XML tree and figure out which names and values we want to keep up and keep them in the list. And over here we're doing a very stupid and simple thing. We just fill in the output into the table which will be designed in the designer.
Is anyone here a real Python wizard? I mean, if you look at this, you'd probably say these guys really don't know Python because they've written a nested for loop that you probably could have written with BASIC on a Commodore 64.
Yeah, as we said before, we are not Python wizards, so we just said there are probably many more elegant ways to express what we did, but this just worked for us. We just wrote it down once.
But the important thing is we go through this table of build results, and for each one we create a table widget item, which is a box in that spreadsheet, which we'll now show you.
So this is the result after maybe 20 minutes or something like that. As you can see, we improved on all the things that are discussed before. We can see at the same time which package failed for which distribution. And we can quickly switch through them if you want to.
Yeah, so you've got this combo box here. You can select different repositories. You can type in your own repository and it'll go away from the section. And the interesting thing is that kde4, even though it's a very new release, we already have pretty much complete bindings in Ruby and in C#, as well as for Python. And when it comes to pure Qt, we also have Java bindings. KD4 Java binding's not there yet, but coming soon.
Just for the demo, I'm not sure how well the network is working. So this is the application live. You can see I can scroll up and down here.
You scroll left and right.
Oh.
Oh no, you don't have enough to scroll.
I don't have enough. So,
no. Make the window smaller.
This was working.
So because it's tail widget, the headers stay in one place while the content scrolls. You can always see what this. We solved our little artificial problem that we set for ourselves at the beginning to make something where you can see the results and see the headers.
Does anyone have a build service repository? Okay. Want to check it? What's your build service account?
Home, Funky Tango.
Funky Tango, Big F, Big P?
Yeah.
Big F, Big P, yeah.
Okay.
You watched it this morning, didn't you?
Oh, sorry, there it is. We're testing it to prove that it's not a scale application, it's just what's. We are happy that it exists. Okay. You might find it useful, you might not find it useful, we just wanted to show you how easy it is to write your own solution in very simple way.
And if we had more than 20 minutes, we would set up a couple of K-notification events so that when your repository changes and a package goes from failing to building, you get a nice little pop-up, standard KDE pop-up saying KDE base 3 Plasma has now been updated. Pretty easy. Not too long.
Okay. We only have 5 minutes left, so we have two options, either going into QA mode at the moment, or just, yeah, it's probably just, do you have any questions?
Question here at the front.
Yeah, you talk about that you've got complete bindings and I'm using the one that's really good, but are they packaged? In the build service you couldn't find KDE bindings about a week or two ago.
Almost. They have a couple of problems, but they will be packaged very soon.
Okay.
I was personally working on them last week, but I don't have enough time, so they're really next week.
The stable bindings are Python-KDE4.
Okay.
Any more questions at the back?
Your spreadsheet table item, is that released as a package or is it just that script?
We just packed it up last week, just that script, but we could log it out and make it a download, or we could put it in KDSVN somewhere and get your input as well. Okay.
If you want to improve it, then you can just. Yeah,
really useful.
It would get a lot more useful if we didn't have the constraint that it had to fit on one slide. So we could do a lot more things with it.
I mean, there are so many obvious improvements. We could add a filter, for example, that you can only filter for failed packages, which would be useful for really big repositories. But yeah, our main constraint was we want to get it done just now. We don't want to spend half a day on improving and a lot more features. Just want to show that this is really possible to do it with very, very little effort. Any other questions?
We go to the one studio quick.
How much time? Okay, I just skip over a few slides. So what you probably already know if you used the 10.3 version is that we changed the way you have to install OpenSUSE. So previously you needed just this stack of file to install OpenSUSE. We thought that's a little bit too much, so we did one CD install. Our target was you download one CD and you get something that is roughly complete. It should be compared to the default install of the DVD media. The DVD media is obviously a lot larger and has a lot more applications, but not all of them are installed Essentially, a very small set of the DVD is installed by default, but you can always select more packages. So we want to make sure that the default set it fits on one CD. To achieve that, we had to cut down the little couple of features. The main feature we have to cut down is the language support. The DVD ships with internationalization for a lot of languages, which don't fit on one CD. So we have to decide for one language with the possibility to create new one CD versions with another language selected. So it's not hard-coded to one specific language, but it's just hard-coded to one language. If that's a big problem, you can just extend the installation process by adding online repositories before you start the installation. So as soon as you add online repositories during the installation, you will automatically get new features. If you select a country different than the US, you will automatically get the language translations for your country. So the problem we faced at the beginning was the default set was roughly 1 gigabyte. But we only have 700 gigabytes available, so how do we make that work? We came up with a list of things we can do. We remove optional parts of the distribution which are not that much required by users, so this was quite a bit of effort to find out what do the users want and what do they need not so much. This is still something which is ongoing. We try to improve the set of packages, so you have feedback about that. Things that you're missing from the one CD media and why you download the DVD media, just provide us the feedback. A big chunk of the package set before was actually the selection of fonts. So in easy way we could reduce the amount of data was to just reduce the amount of fonts we ship by default. We also changed the way our distribution was built to split out languages from the packages. Previously languages they're usually part of the main package, so we installed the application and also installed the translation at the same time. We set up a very simple mechanism to be able to automatically split out the translations and also be able to provide them automatically again. So this is what we came up with. We created language bundles. Language bundles basically provide you with all the translations you need for the one CD media, but they are just packaged for one language. So you install one bundle, basically per language. So what you're doing is, if you install one CD but you want the French version, you will just add the French bundle and get your French translation of the CD. This is just the most interesting thing. I just sketched how the size on the CD is wasted, or how it is spent. You can see that a fair amount of stuff is actually just a basic how to boot your system, the base system, command line tools. So it's not a stripped down system. You have pretty much the command line stuff still available. You can also see that OpenOffice is a big chunk on the one CD version, and only this it's less of a quarter. It's actually a KDE specific part. Okay.
And the important thing to remember is that we're doing that so we can get KDE CD out, but the improvements to distribution that causes are available to every other desktop, to the base distribution, to DVD. It means you get a smaller distribution, you get more applications, you get faster downloads. So it's useful. Thank you for coming.